Are there any emergency additions or modifications to
There are
the
none.
agenda? No? Then anyone want to move to approve?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I forgot that I have to do that too. And moving on to the minutes from last month.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we
Great.
want to announce why
Oh.
Kevin and Michael aren't here? Or?
In all honesty, I don't know why. I just know they aren't. So would you like to announce why?
Well, we knew that work took them both out of town this week, and so we knew in advance that they were not gonna be able to make it.
Working. Imagine.
Yes. And tonight, we have Arlie with us, our junior
Yes,
representative.
Yeah.
And do you have a report for us?
I do.
Great.
Now?
Absolutely.
So I have three things to talk about. One is related to the the courses with the dashboard. Should I save that for later?
Save that one for
Okay,
later.
I'll save that for later. So one thing I just want to bring up really quickly was the success in the girls volleyball recently. That was so good for morale on campus. It was just a great point of contingent happiness to everyone. So
That's great to hear.
yeah, just that was a little boost in morale. The second thing is supporting on-campus club with off-campus impacts. So I'm a member of the Live Club, which was established last year, 2017, by now senior Isa Gomez. And it allows students to travel across the world and help communities through service projects. So what we do is these 10 elected students. Is anyone familiar with the Live Club?
Mm-hmm.
So LIVE is an acronym which stands for Leadership Through International Volunteer Expeditions. And so the whole year, these 10 members are fundraising, they're meeting with their community, they're organizing their budgeting, and we are trying to fund ourselves to get over to these foreign countries and do service projects there. So last year, they did waterworks projects in Costa Rica and helped local communities and the local communal hospital get fresh water supply. And this year we are hoping to go to Thailand and help with infrastructure projects for children's centers and the local villages. Just one thing I want to point out is that it's an incredible opportunity for these students, the 10 that get to go, but it's only 10. And it is a Nordhoff special club. Like, it doesn't exist. The program exists outside of Nordhoff, but the Live Club itself is special to Nordhoff. And the club is only ran by 2 teachers by choice with no extra pay, and they have a lot on their plate along with being a teacher, teaching and then bringing that work back home. And there's no doubt about the good about this club, but its impact on the students and the international communities could grow so much more if it were open to more members. Which is to say that the members have to be held to a certain caliber and, keeping grades, making sure that they're actually going to commit to the program. But there are more than 10 of those at Nordhoff. And if we were to support the club with more recognition among the school board, more staff, more teachers / volunteers to help with fundraising outreach, the possibility for expansion grows. And with growth comes the establishment of something unique to Nordhoff, yet beneficial to people all over the globe. So I'm just saying that this club is super special to us, not only because it unifies a certain group of hardworking students within Nordhoff itself, but also impacts other people around the world. And just, yeah.
So cool.
Thank you.
Which is there's that idea we keep talking about of letting the community know what are our schools doing.
Yeah.
So Arlie couldn't make our last meeting because he had, I was thinking it's live, it's Live.
It's Live, yeah.
Live, and I was like, well, I don't even know what that is, so can you talk about it? So sounds, and it is, it's something I think private schools tend to have, but you don't see something like that in public schools. It's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't know, just have to maybe put that on our radar for ways to expand it.
Mm-hmm.
And just letting people know is a great start.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Was that everything?
For right now, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Now we are at 6.1.
5, although I don't think we have anything
Oh,
for 5.
yeah, no, I'm sorry, I skipped 5. Are there any public comments? No. All right, then we'll skip on to 6.1. Matilaha, 6th grade transition update.
Yes, so we finished our teacher recruitment, and I'm happy to announce that we have 5 teachers from the elementary moving over to the 6th grade at Matilaha. We have Susan Dvorak, currently a 4th grade teacher at Topa Topa. Alex Mejia Holdsworth, currently a 2nd grade teacher at Topa Topa. Kate Spiva, who's currently a 6th grade teacher at San Antonio. Caroline Stubbs, who's currently a 5th grade teacher at Topa Topa, and Sherry Usher, who is currently a 4th grade teacher at San Antonio. So the 5 of them are very excited. They've already met and worked with Javier and Carol to write an OEF grant for some things that they like. A few of them were able to make it today to Matilaha's staff meeting to celebrate with pie over there and meet their colleagues. And our plans for the future is that monthly they will be meeting to work together as a team sometimes, or sometimes work with the faculty at Matilaha on all the things that we need to roll out as we gear up for next August. So we're excited about the team, and they are very excited. So it's great.
Can you remind me how many those 5 were chosen out of how many? Did others,
Out of how many elementary teachers?
how many teachers were interested? Did we
It
have more interest?
Peaked and waned. We did early on, and then some people lost interest as we started to have conversations. I would say that there were 7 total that were interested, and we narrowed it down to 5.
Okay.
Or they self-narrowed.
Self-selected.
It was a lot of conversation about how this would work and how the team would meld together and their interests and what they wanted to teach. Because they're going to be moving from teaching 4 or 5 subject matters down to 2 or 3, or in some cases 1. And so those were the conversations that we've had starting from back in the spring when we first announced it, and had interested teachers all the way to this fall when we were honing in. So.
Which is a great way to select. I think,
Yes, and it worked out really great. I mean, we ended up with these great partnerships where it's perfectly balanced for what they like to teach and want to teach and what we need to offer the kids. So we're excited.
Can you at some point have Mr. Ramirez talk to us about how the 6th graders are added to the wheel and that,
to the
Yes.
electives.
to the elective, how does that, so did the 6th grade teachers become part of that, or? Just
Yes
thinking
and
about-
no. So in some cases, there might be opportunities where 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are mixed into courses. And then there might be some electives where 6th graders are in their own elective. But we haven't hashed out all the electives. But for example, the things we do sort of know, Kate is very interested in doing a robotics course as an elective. So that's something that we're thinking of adding. We have Susan Dvorak is very interested in either doing drama or art or both, maybe in some sort of wheel type thing. So that's partially what we're still determining. I think that probably in the next month or so we would be able to show you more definitively the different electives that will be offered and who will be doing what and who it will be offered to specifically. Because in some cases I think it might be offered to all 3 grades, and in some cases it might be 6th grade only.
That can wait until April. I was just realizing that they usually don't make that wheel decision until much later in the year, based on.
Right, and I think we're going to make it sooner than later. We've been having a lot of talk around that idea, and there's a lot of interest. The last faculty meeting that Javier had with his staff is, what would you like to do for electives? What would we like to see on this campus? So the conversations are happening, and I think that probably well before spring we'll be able to tell you how it's looking. Yeah.
I was told to bring a question to the board by my 12-year-old daughter because she's very concerned.
Okay.
Is CME scrapped? Is something happening with CME? There's rumor going around Matilla that the 5th graders won't get to do CME next year, the next year's 5th graders.
No, that's not accurate at all.
Okay.
There is conversation around whether or not there are other field trips for the future that we might want to consider. Potentially, that could be in place of CME, but right now, CME is the field trip. Right now, CME is the field trip that will stay for 5th grade. But there are really great camps around here, and so the teachers and I have engaged in conversations to say, best practice would tell us that we should look at those and see what they have to offer, and then go from there with discussions about, whether or not there might be a future change. But we are definitely not there, and we'll keep you
I'll
involved in
try
those
and quell
discussions.
the rumor mill
Yes.
then.
Yes.
They were very concerned, and I actually was getting yelled at. You made what decision?
Why did you do that?
I don't know. I get blamed for a lot these days.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Cheryl. We'll move on to 7.1. Do we have much here?
Right here, which is there.
7.3, sorry. Local indicators on the California School Dashboard, and this is what you, Arlie, had something to say about also?
But I think we'll hear
So
from
Marilyn,
first.
right,
Yeah.
Marilyn will do a presentation and then we'll open it up to
Do you need me to do
questions
anything,
and
Marilyn?
comments.
No, I think my clicker works.
Okay.
Is it? Okay, because that was gonna go.
You got tired of waiting.
It's not projecting.
It's saying no signal. I wonder.
She just had it up a second ago.
Turn this off and turn it back on. Because it was working. Yeah, it was.
We saw the
We
pa-
saw it. You know what I mean?
PowerPoint.
Yeah. No, it was on when I was outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let me turn this off.
You know,
Yeah.
well, if you turn it
Press
off, it
power
might take
again.
3 minutes to,
You know,
but then the bulb have to cool before you turn it on.
okay, now I'll press it on. And it was such a beautiful PowerPoint. Really nicely done. Now is it back on? I don't know.
Now, I think you have to wait on those. I think once you shut them down,
You have to wait again?
like 3 minutes for the bulb to cool before it'll.
I can talk about it without them.
It was a very nice
Really
PowerPoint.
nice. It's only 4 slides.
I put
We
it-
have copies in the back, right?
We do.
It was part of the agenda, so we do have copies in the
There are
back,
copies in
and
the back if
each
you want to
board member
follow
has
along
a
with
set
the
as well.
paper
We do.
copies.
I can share too.
All right.
I'm good at sharing.
We'll just.
Tell our elementary kids.
As you know, California has a new accountability system, fairly new. This is the second year. But districts, we are required to report the status of the indicators at a local governing board meeting. Not approval, just present it. So tonight, we're going to be presenting the local indicators and the local indicators as opposed to the state indicators. And I want to mention before I start just talking about the local indicators, the state indicators, the dashboard, the actual dashboard will come out December 3rd. So kind of be on the lookout for that. And it has a new look. Fortunately, it no longer has the pies, which were kind of hard to interpret and just hard to see. Now it has more of like a gas gauge. So, empty is here red, and then you get over to blue. So more of a gauge, a semicircle. So it'll definitely have a new look. And remember, the dashboard is really a website that gives parents and educators and the public with really a pretty complete picture of what our schools are doing. When you look at the dashboard, as I said, we have the state indicators, and then we have local indicators. And tonight, I just want to talk a little bit about the local indicators. Local indicators are just what the name implies. We collect the data at the local level. So there are 5 of them: basic services, implementation of state academic standards, parent engagement, school climate, and course access. Now, on the last slide is really what I'm going to talk about tonight. we have to determine whether you meet the local indicator or you don't meet. So we have to mark either met or not met. So the first local indicator are basic conditions, Williams. Teacher assignments, enough textbooks, sufficient number of instructional materials, and facilities. And notice we didn't meet, and we marked not met. Now, we met the textbook, the instructional materials, we met the 100% teacher qualification, but we did not meet the facilities. 4 out of our 7 schools are at the fair level, as opposed, there's good, fair, and poor. So 4 of our 7 schools are at fair, so we had to mark not met.
Who determines that fair?
It's part of the FIT. FIT stands
Facility
for
inspection tool.
Inspection tool, right. And it's published in the SARC, the School Accountability Report Card. And I just printed out the SARC is a public document. And does the board want to know which schools were fair and which were good?
Well, and I'd like to know why.
Right.
Yes, okay. Well, Miners Oaks was fair, and they were marked fair on restrooms and fountains, building D, the custodial closet, and then it has an explanation.
Marilyn, if I may interrupt just a
Yeah.
little bit, just a reminder on the, the FIT document, who fills out our own staff. So it was Josh Brown and myself in years past, now it's David Rogers and Russ Bennett. The only one that actually then gets reviewed by the county is Myers Oaks. So the county then sends out their own person to review ours and make sure that the way that we're self-assessing is appropriate, and that each year they do agree with our self-assessment. But they end up giving us about 8 different categories that we're supposed to look at for every single building. And so you give it a check if it's in good condition, or you give it a D as deficiency. And so the main place that I believe for all of our schools, and certainly Myers Oaks specifically, where we get marked down significantly, is if you have any kind of peeling paint, and there's a possibility that any of the paint that's previously been in that building has lead in it, then they're viewing that as a what they call a safety concern. And we know that we do have lead abatement that's necessary at each of our sites, but any building that's peeling paint is going to instantly go into a low graded category. And so really what this is saying is that we know that we have facility needs across the district. We do have both the roof issues that we've had that we've now fixed up, but those wouldn't have been on the FIT for this year. But again, the big one was the condition of peeling paint.
And is
across the
that
district.
because I had the feeling that we had fixed all the paint issues?
I was thinking the
That
same
like
thing,
first
too.
we did.
No, we only did that at Matilaha and at half of Nordhoff. Those are the only 2 that we've done. And then, I'm sorry, and also here at the auditorium and at the grounds
And I guess
building.
some of it, we were waiting for the roof to be, like, what, you're not gonna fix it and then have it leak
Precisely,
if it rains.
that's right. So
wait until-
Miramani is the next site that we're working on, and it's supposed to start over the winter break. And we are working on doing the rest of the sites by next summer. But yeah, certainly the roofs were one of the things that we were getting dinged on as well. If you have leaks at roofing, that's going to be a very big, deficiency for this grading scale. But right, that was also what's holding up. If we were to repaint, not have the proper sealing, the roof line, then that could just create the same bubbling that takes place and then cause cracking.
Because that was a big problem at TOPA, Angie, on the classrooms, 22, 23, 24. Are those
The
not,
awnings.
but we were gonna remove those, and then that we didn't. 2019,
The
20, or 20,
portables in the
21?
very back.
There are a couple portables there that right now we're slated for removal, and we're working with the site on determining timing of removal versus maintaining it as a non-student or non-instructional room, but having it just as storage on site.
And these assessments are done annually?
Annually, right.
So by the time we do the next one, do we anticipate having everything remedied, or?
This one actually came out 8/3/17, so we're always a year
Right.
behind on the SARC.
Oh, okay, so we'll have
So,
another year,
Right.
and maybe 2, or do we think just 1 more year?
Well, so again, what causes us to fail this standard is when we have is it, how many class or schools? We had four that were
Four
in that category,
were in the
but
fair category and not good category.
do you know how many is it that actually, if we had one that was still in the fair category, would that still trigger us as a not met? Do you have to have all in the good?
No, it doesn't have to be all in the good. I mean, Cheryl and I looked at the tool and it wasn't real clear,
Right,
but we just felt that in good conscience with
Sure.
the majority of our schools not in the good category, we would have to mark not met. But I would assume if we just had one, we could mark met. Would you agree, Cheryl?
I would.
So,
So I don't feel the need to find out each.
yeah, it's real detailed on the SARC. So you can always look at the SARC, the School Accountability Report Card, which is online, both in English and in Spanish. And about the fourth or fifth page, it'll detail everything. Systems, interior cleanliness, electrical, restrooms, and we'll mark where it is.
Right. Well, and we have so many projects ongoing.
absolutely.
It's not like we're not doing anything.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Another question on this,
Sure.
and maybe you're, the blue categories on here, are we discussing those or?
The priority 4, 5, and 6, those?
Yeah,
Those are the state indicators.
Oh,
So
okay.
those come directly from CalPADS, the Student Information Statewide System, and we will be reporting on that part of the dashboard, the state indicators, when the dashboard comes out. So the dashboard will come out December 3rd with
Okay.
all of those.
So my other question about this is, I've already expressed my frustration at the county and the state level. I don't need to do it again.
With the local level.
But are the colors still based on movement, or are they based on where we actually are?
Oh.
So
the-
like, is
the
it met or
colors-
not met, or is it, if currently we have 4 schools that are fair, if next year we have 3 schools, does that make us great?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No, I'm serious, because that's what they do for these other categories.
Yeah, they do. The blue color on your slide has nothing to do with the indicator.
Okay.
Where we fall on that.
And
No,
where
but
we
I mean,
fall.
on the local indicators
On
that
the
are
local.
met or not met, does progress play a role in that?
Yes, it does, because one of them on, I think it's the academic, the second one, implementation of state academic standards. You have to, Cheryl and I sit with the tool. It's a tool that actually, and I think I might have photocopied it for you.
Yeah,
A tool where you actually say, we are emerging on this, or we have succeeded in ELA textbooks and now we're at the implementation phase. So there are degrees, but even the degrees you can mark met. It's really up to us when we do the tool.
But I don't know if you're talking about the gauges with the colors. There aren't gauges for the local indicators.
For the local,
Right.
it's
No.
either one way or the other.
It's
That's
just
right.
what we put here, met or not met. And there is a spot for a narrative I wanted to point out too. So we do have a little line where we've written, we have Measure J bond money and we are
Right.
working on these facilities. So those are not, they don't go up and down or
Based on how people are
red to
feeling.
blue.
No.
Right.
No.
And those narrative portions are on the dashboard, so
Right.
when parents go there to see it, they will
Yes.
see that
Right.
part as
Yes,
well.
yes.
Well, it's new, so we're not sure how easy it will be to see it, but yes, they will be able
In
to
theory,
see it.
okay.
Yes.
The
And there-
dashboard is actually a little easier to navigate.
It
but-
is.
But I don't know when it actually comes out. Jane?
The appropriately assigned teachers, I know in the spring, we always vote on 2 or 3 teachers who are working on credentialing.
Mhm.
Is that mentioned in the response, or is that, how do we?
It doesn't
No.
need to be. If they're interns or they're all credentialed in some way, so that's considered how's it worded? Appropriately assigned.
Okay.
So,
Any
or if
other
it's a
que-
local board waiver, that's appropriately assigned.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the local indicators?
Are we going through each of them, like that was priority 1? Are we going now into priority 2, or
Um,
are you just?
we don't have to, or we can, either way. I mean, if you just have questions on one of them, it's fine. I can try to answer.
Well, I wanted Arlie to have a little discussion with us
Yes,
on
yes.
priority 7, which is access to broad
Ah.
courses of study.
Mm-hmm.
And let me, before you start speaking, let me kind of get there, or get all of us there.
While you're looking, I'll just tell you what I expressed at the county thing. It's really frustrating to me because movement is such a large component of how they assess things. And I think the way I expressed it was, if I'm driving down the highway and I'm looking at my dashboard, it's important to me to know how fast I'm going. Not that I'm going 5 miles an hour faster than I was a minute ago. And they don't seem to care. What they care about is whether you're going faster or slower than you used to be going, not how
Where
fast
you're
you're
at.
going, yeah. So when it comes out on December 3rd, I would anticipate that we might have a lot of people in the community with questions, because it's not, unless they've changed it.
Cheryl and I met, was it yesterday or the day before? And we saw a preview of the dashboard that comes, a part of a preview, the college and career indicator and the grad rate. It was so perplexing that we called CDE. And even she explained it was,
They have new calculations this year that are different than last year's calculations, and you would never know that. So if you're looking at the year before and this year, you're going to see all these.
It's apples and oranges, but you don't know
Yes.
that.
You wouldn't
But you
know
don't
that.
know
We
that.
we didn't know that. We had to call and say, why does this say we increased, but if you look at last year, it actually looks like we decreased,
Yeah.
or vice versa. I mean, it was really confusing. And when we show it to you in December or January when we can, we'll explain to you what they shared with us. It'll be easier when we're visually looking at it, but it is very complex. It's not going to be easy for anybody
And
to
parents
understand.
won't know who to call to ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can call Marilyn or
Yeah.
Marilyn or me.
we'll try and answer.
So on
Okay, Jane.
page 20 of 21 is where it's, in response to the results of the tool, LEA implement, LEA will continue to look for creative ways to offer a broad course of study for all students. So basically, we said, there are a variety of electives. We have 8 career and technical education pathways at the high school, 4 at the continuation high school, 6 at the junior high, 8 AP classes offered at the high school. And that's pretty much the text, except for our major barrier being our small school size. So the fewer students we have, the more difficult it is to offer a wide variety of electives. Because you can't have 8 classes with 10 students in them. You have to fill a class before you can offer a second class.
Right.
So I just thought, since you're there and you know what electives are and APs are and
Yeah.
how you know, I don't know if you're gonna just speak on your personal experience, that's fine, or if you have.
I talk to my close friends, my 4 friends I sit with, and we more or less have the same schedule, which is predominantly APs or honors. But then I also just know, like, the consensus on campus for juniors. To speak on behalf of my friends, our favorite classes are AP classes because the work is more engaging and the students try harder. But it's one thing that we've kind of noticed, because we've only taken 3 so far, just being juniors, that's all that are really offered for us at the moment, is that the class sizes are so large, actually, compared to the relatively small student body, that people who want the opportunity to challenge themselves in academics are actually being pushed out just based on work in previous grades and previous classes. Saw that with AP European History, and this year very much with AP US History. And we've also come to notice, and I don't know if this really falls under what we're talking about, because it's more like the class quality than the offering, because we love the courses and we love that we all have them, but it feels like it's closing off to a lot of people, actually. and that classes seem a little bit more difficult just so that certain students will be urged to drop the class and lower the student body count so that the smarter kids can have the classroom when truly it should be offered to more people.
Well, and it's an interesting concept
Yeah.
because one of the big things I think in the country right now, people are talking about, you know, you raise the standard, you actually raise the performance.
Yeah.
So you're talking
Yeah.
about you enjoy the class more because it's harder and students are working harder. So
Yeah.
even if a student is maybe a, you know, a C+ student instead of an A- student, they still might enjoy challenge.
Yeah.
And so they should be able, I mean, it'd be interesting to look at as an indicator rather than just the number. Right now, we look at student body numbers
Mhm.
in order to figure out how many classes we can offer,
Yeah.
right? But it's like, well, we have to offer, like, I'm gonna use the junior high as an example, because I know it's just a little bit
Mhm.
better. You have a core math for struggling students, but it could still be a challenging class. So it'd be interesting, I mean, I don't know how you do you have a, I mean, this was one of the, I think one of the questions we talked about last year. Just because you're taking an AP class doesn't mean you're taking the AP test
Yeah.
in the spring. So maybe we raise the opportunity, we have an AP class that's geared towards those who are going to take the test, and an AP class for those who don't think they're going to take the test.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they might change their mind by the spring, but it might allow for students who are, well, I'm not taking AP because it's gonna be too hard, or it's too crowded. If we had like, maybe some leveling of the histories.
Could I just ask you a question to try to understand? So, I'm not exactly sure what you're saying. I
Alright.
want to.
Okay.
So, are there students who would like to take a challenging course? They don't care so much about what grade they get in it?
Well, the way I
Or they
see
want to get a good grade, but it's too hard to get a good grade? Or I'm
The-
just kind
yeah.
of confused about that.
No, the way that I see it is that students are willing to challenge themselves, period. But the way in which that we deal with these amounts of students coming in is not more inclusive, but more exclusive, and let's focus on the people who have shown us already that they can handle AP classes. And it's a battle, it's kind of like a balance between a higher standard, like you were saying, but also discouraging those who are not used to it, because you have to have this introduction somehow. And like I said, the classes that are actually offered, I really enjoy and I think are very strong, but it's the way in which we involve more students into it that I think can be worked with, which I don't know if is really what we're talking about right now, but it's just what my friends and I were saying. So, and that's just one thing about that. And then,
It's an interesting point, and the question that I had next to this topic was, I'm curious as to what the demographics of our AP classes are, and what the demographics of our CTE classes are. If we are kind of creating classes, like you say, where some kids fit and some kids don't, if we are being inclusive in those classes.
yeah.
My daughter is in her first AP class as a sophomore this year, and she said kind of similar things to what you're saying, where the class is full. These first few weeks, it felt like trying to make it really difficult
Yeah, and
so that you're
eliminate.
weeding people
Yeah.
out, and people were dropping out of the class,
Mhm.
rather than creating an environment where people are supported to stay.
Yeah.
It feels like people are being pushed out.
Mhm.
Are the classes getting easier after those first 2 weeks then?
I think easier is kind of a hard thing to define, because it could be easier as in I'm getting more used to how the class is set up.
Yeah.
I'm going with the system. I can't say for sure whether the curriculum is actually is easier. So that's something I couldn't
Yeah.
actually say.
As an
I don't
outside-
personally feel like it is, but I'm still working my hardest.
Yeah.
But yet again, I've already taken an AP class, and I have my certain standards, and some people are not. Everybody's the same as me. So.
I mean, I'm just, and I'm not trying to be argumentative.
No, yeah.
I'm just wondering if that might be a good thing to help students who would otherwise fail
Yeah.
to not fail,
Yeah.
to take a class where they can succeed.
Hmm.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
Or do we create a class where everybody succeeds instead of weeding them out to another place?
Right, but if the point is to help them do well on the test, then,
Just to speak to this a little
Yeah.
bit, I think it would be great to include the counselors in this. I can tell you that the counselors and administration would offer the courses if the kids wanted to take them, and if we, when working with each kid to decide if they should take an AP course, it's a very careful consideration. And the reason the teachers set criteria for what they think a student should show prior to being recommended for an AP class is because we want them to be successful. And when you're an AP teacher, it is very difficult. You're working very hard to make sure that the kids cover all the material before that AP test. And I understand that some kids don't take the test, and maybe what you were talking about is the right way to do it. Maybe a class where we know those kids aren't going to take the test, and these kids are going to take the test. But certainly if you're in that class where you're going to take the test, you're covering a lot of material quickly. And so weeding out the students, I don't know if that happens so much on purpose once they're in the class. That's not our goal. And I don't like using the word weeding out, but certainly in the spring when they're choosing courses, we're very careful in helping them choose the course that we think is the right fit for them, because we don't want to see kids take an AP class and not do well. I mean, that's really hard on a student. But certainly if there's a way to open the door to more students trying a rigorous course, I think that that's a great step for students. And I actually think that that possibility is more in our dual enrollment that we're starting. That's a nice way to get kids into more rigorous courses, kind of get that feel of a faster, harder pace, maybe before an AP class where they are really covering quite a lot of information.
So just to confirm, and because Arlie probably doesn't know, the dual enrollment is a class where they get high school credit and college credit.
Yeah.
And I have to say that if I were a teenager, I would pick the dual enrollment over the AP any
too.
day.
I think there's
Because
different
you're
reasons to pick both,
guaranteed
but yes,
To get the college
Yeah.
credit, the AP, you're not guaranteed that college credit.
that's a good point.
And we still haven't, I know it was asked a month or so ago about what our AP scores are. Are kids who are in the AP classes passing the AP test?
In some cases, we have really high rates, and in other cases, not so much. And those are conversations that are actively taking place at Nordhoff. That's part of each teacher's job, is evaluating why didn't my students do that well on the test, and what do I need to do better. And that is the juggle, and it's not an easy job to be an AP teacher. I will tell you that much.
Well, and
it's
I
a
know,
lot of
I'm
work.
sure it would be very difficult for us to do this in Ojai, but I know when I was taking my kids on college tours, there were some kids who were, 17, but when they came to University of Washington or wherever we were, they were gonna already have 30 credits from their high school.
Yeah.
And that is, talk about appeal,
Mhm.
and something that might bring students from Ventura
Mhm.
is if we're offering a program where they can graduate high school and already have 1 year of college credits.
Although, in our experience, they didn't acknowledge them. So we have to be careful with that. They say we only accept 4 AP credits. I'm sorry,
No,
you
that's
took
what I'm
8.
saying, AP is different. You're actually gonna be coming with.
With college
You're saying
credits, I see,
college credit, yeah,
from the dual enrollment.
Yeah.
and it depends where you go. But Arlie, you make a great point, because my personal experience, when I was going to start high school, I went to the counselors, I said, I want to take all these classes, I want to take extra, anyway, and they said no, and so I just said, forget it, and I went to college. So, I think it's good to help people do what they want to do, and, in some cases, maybe that leads to failure and a readjustment, and sometimes, I think good counseling is good counseling now. I mean to say, I think this is a really poor decision. But I want to support you in doing.
Right. It's actually interesting, and this is off topic, so maybe I'll bring it up at a later date, but some of these conversations, I feel like, rather than with us, they should be having them with the administration at the school and with the counselors at the school.
Absolutely.
Even one of the meetings I had with the group, we were talking about college applications, so it was with the senior representative, Stella, and she felt like she's getting a lot of help this year as a senior. She said, I wish I had gotten it last year as a junior, because I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball, because college applications are due November. So if we, it's like,
Yeah.
we gotta get that information, so we might consider maybe in the spring, finding a way that our student advisory council, attends a faculty meeting or something, or.
And I wonder if that's
something.
already started, because I got a letter in the mail about junior, senior night for parents to go to kind of understand. So it wasn't just for seniors, it was also for juniors. I wonder if that message is already coming through to counselors to get that information
Well, I
out
don't know how
earlier.
they would've, but just from students maybe.
Mm.
Sorry, Tim.
No, it was
Pull
good
away from the
discussion,
dashboard.
because I love the part about the course access.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't provide, I mean, it should be readily available to all students, and we shouldn't be throwing up barriers and that kind of thing. So I really like what you had to say, Arlie.
I like that point, Marilyn. We should be doing our best to reduce barriers when
Yeah.
possible so that
Yeah.
students can have that access.
Well, and things are changing, when I went to school, you only took an AP in your, like, I'm a science guy, I'm a math girl, whatever. You didn't take APs in everything. And it might be if you start offering some dual enrollment, or you offer challenging classes, that you start to change that too. Like, people go, well, gee, if I could take, I assume right now if a student wants to take, say, the acting class, they might have to choose, do I want AP? I think Estella said she had to choose between AP Calc and dance.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't do both.
They're both
So she
standalone.
chose dance because she felt in her application she was gonna be talking about dance as a very important thing for her. So
Yeah.
that's a good choice, and you
Yeah.
don't want, I don't think we as a school district, as a small school district, and Nordhoff as a small high school, needs to offer endless possibilities. I think some choice is a wise choice, like that was for her, I think, a good choice, rather than taking 5 APs, you take 4 in dance or something. So we don't have to answer or provide everything, but if we're providing more for a larger percentage of the students, it's.
Any other questions on the dashboard? I'll be back, with the, with the state indicators when that comes out. So, questions?
Thank you, Marilyn.
I think we're good. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
And I think, I don't know if, Arlie, did you get a chance to look at the agenda? Do you wanna take a moment to see if there's anything else that you might?
The one thing I do have to say, and if it's coming up later, I'll just wait then, but for the Catalina trip for basketball, for girls basketball, I don't know if that's really gonna be discussed here, but my close friend just has like, please don't let us go to that. They really don't wanna go. Cause it
Oh.
interferes with the dead center winter break for them. So like previous family engagements and stuff like that are having to be postponed for a basketball.
Is that in the consent? I thought it was volleyball, but maybe it was basketball.
Girls basketball.
It was
Yeah.
girls basketball?
Well, and that might get us back into that idea of taking a sport for not a grade. Oh, but or is
The
it
entire
varsity?
team is not expected to attend.
You can
is
I
choose
believe
to
there's
go.
only 10 players attending.
We'll write that, we'll make note
Okay.
of that. And
Yeah.
have a discussion,
We'll make sure we talk about that as we get there.
yeah. And it might be, cause like, my
Should have
kids
not
would be
seen
like, holiday's boring, we wanna go, so.
We don't want to be with family.
I didn't say that.
No, not yours, because there might be theoretically.
But it's interesting, that idea, and I've heard it talked about at Nordhoff, that we need to preserve that family time and not encroach so much upon it with extra assignments over winter break or these.
Yeah,
Thanksgiving break.
I'm feeling it right now
Or
with Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
break. I'm really feeling it with encroachment.
Yeah, that when you're off,
Yeah.
it's kind of time to rejuvenate, and we need to respect rejuvenation and family time and downtime.
Yeah.
I need a break. Maybe that's what I'm really saying. So anyway, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that what Jane was trying to say is you are not required to stay for the remainder of the meeting unless you
Alright.
are interested in something that is coming up and want to be here for the discussion.
I think that was the last thing I wanted to tackle on, so,
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Thanks for
you
being here.
guys, thank you.
I appreciate it.
And we will move on to 7.3.2, the MOU between Ventura County Office of Education and Ojai Unified School District about
I
the
don't
career.
Have any questions, but
Yeah,
I'm
it's
willing to,
similar
move to approve unless somebody.
to last year's.
My only question, it really isn't about the MOU, but it's about the CTE funding, and if we think there's going to be a change with the new governor, new superintendent of schools, if any of that.
They've approved funding. It's less, unfortunate, but it's ongoing. I don't know how many years, 5 more years. The problem is that a portion of it is going through the college district, even though it's for K-12, and we have to submit a proposal for it. We have decided that we're gonna still do the proposal through our consortium as a whole county. And so we're hopeful that we're going to get what we need, but there might be less funding in the future depending on how they approve the proposals. So, but funding is coming down the pike. CTE is here to stay. We will continue the pathways. They just might not get quite as much money as they used to get. Does that
And
answer
so
your
that
question?
shortfall, then our district would kick in, or are we
Well,
cutting back?
No,
And
the
that's a
idea
premature
of
question.
the way the CTE pathways were created is they were created with the intent of being able to be sustainable without the funding. So the funding up front really paid for a lot of the infrastructure, the things that you need to make the program happen, like
welding
new
could?
computers, welding. We pay for in the case of the sections that are offered during the school day, we pay the salary of the teachers. So we're already incurring that cost. We can continue to incur that cost. The problem is there won't be there could be a future time where there's less or no money to fund all those extra supplies. And as we know, computers go out of date fast. You know, you need equipment to do welding and automotive. I mean, the funding is great and it will definitely be needed in the future, but we won't just see pathways go away if the funding is less or it disappears.
Okay.
Which is, there's that meeting at the county the Monday
Yeah,
after
Monday
Thanksgiving
after.
about involving businesses, and that might be where we find,
Mhm.
So I'm scheduled to go to that, so, and are
too.
you going,
Mhm.
Andy?
Mhm.
Are you going,
Yeah,
Jane?
I'm going.
Oh, okay.
There may be additional funding from
I mean,
local
that might be the
business.
path in the future, 40 years down the line, if we don't have automotive equipment. Well, is there a company that,
Right.
that needs students graduating who know how to repair cars, and
Right.
they're willing to help us?
Yes.
Exactly.
So I'll
Are
move
there-
to,
Any other questions? Go ahead, Jane.
okay, I'll move to approve the memorandum.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, passed unanimously. I forgot. I used to bug Kevin. 7.3.3, service contract between VCOE and Ojai Unified School District.
So this is just the second one, also has come to you in the past, and there's 2 separate funding sources for CTE.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And passed unanimously. Look at how easily I forget. Thank you, Jane. 7.4.1 is Measure J update.
Yeah, this will be brief, so just 2 updates. One is on the staffing side. Very excited to share that Adam Dutter has been hired as one of our bond managers. Someone who, local, grew up in the valley. I actually had a very brief overlap, although I only knew the name. I never actually knew him. When we worked at Guitar Center, he worked in facilities for them, working on construction and renovation of more than 200 stores across the country. And then he left Guitar Center and came to work for the Inn, so that's where he's been most recently, but has extensive experience as a project manager overseeing construction. We're very excited to have him starting on December 12th. We have another local contractor who we've been in conversations with and who we believe will be coming on here very shortly, but we're still finalizing the exact details of his onboarding. The other piece I was going to just share as an update is the upcoming project that we have taking place this coming week, which you'll see is asking for approval for as the next agenda item, is the paving and slurrying of the parking lot at Nordoff. So that's something that we're excited to have take place and have our staff and students come back to at the start of, or the return after Thanksgiving break.
Was there a DSA thing that was supposed to be happening in early November? I mean, at the state level, remember we were
We're-
on, like, it's slated for November.
We're on their agenda.
We're on the
The-
agenda for
Agenda.
December for
Oh,
the,
December, I was thinking it was November.
For this property, are we talking about?
for the,
Oh.
if
So
that's
it's
what
two
I'm
separate
thinking.
things. If we're
Okay.
talking about this property, it was actually on this past Friday.
Oh, I thought it was.
I haven't had a
December.
chance, no, it's November 8th. I haven't had a chance to review the video, but again, we are fully anticipating that it was approved. And so we're going to, in December, bring forward the actual RFP draft that we're going to begin engaging in
That
conversations
must
for.
have been what I was thinking about, but for some reason in my head, I was thinking about the kitchen at Matilah, but that's a long ways.
That's a ways off
That
still.
would be
Maybe-
very optimistic. It's already,
Yeah.
we're there.
Maybe it was November next year.
Yes. So that's my update for today for Measure J.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? 7.4.2, approval of paving contract for Nordoff High School.
So this is actually a contract I'm asking for approval on. This was already updated in the budget that you received last week or last month. So this price we had at the time, and so the budget was altered or changed. If you remember, this was one of the examples of projects that we had drastically over budgeted for. So this came in somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% below what we actually had previously budgeted for. So we've already reallocated those dollars as part of the budget from last month. But again, what they were looking at was needing to do more work than what we're actually doing. It's a repaving and slurry rather than tearing the whole parking lot out and doing a new parking lot, which is what they budgeted for. So that's why we came in so far under budget.
So 2 questions about that. Did we get multiple bids and this was the lowest, or how did we?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
There's
Um,
2 in our pages, in our,
I certainly received 3.
is there 3?
But yes, we did receive multiple bids on this. This is a smaller value item, and so it's not going out to the full public bid that requires, posting in the Ventura County Star and 60 days notice and that sort of thing. But we did go out for a competitive bid nonetheless.
And then the second question is this gonna in any way be affected if we end up changing the in and out lanes the way we were
That's
talking
just
about
painting.
this was? Okay, it won't change, we won't be changing the entry size.
Right now, there's no conversations around changing the entry size, to my knowledge. But even if we were, then that would be talking about an extension. It wouldn't be undoing the work that's being done here. Yeah.
And my question was about the library construction. There's no issue with doing this paving project and then having the heavy equipment for,
No.
no?
No.
All right.
No
Would
concerns.
trucks access through around the back?
You're saying for the library?
Right.
They will be, but they'd also still be going over parts that are being re-slurried here next week.
Okay.
But yeah, they will be taking those fire access roads.
But it will. It'll
Yeah.
wear, make it dirty.
It won't be shiny black.
We
But-
could redo it and then tell everybody just to stay off. Keep off the pavement.
We can try that.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it passed unanimously. 7.5.1, Summit Elementary School monthly update. Do we have an update?
So this is again just our standing item. There is nothing to update the board on this meeting. I did speak over the past few weeks with some of the individuals that have been working on exploring opportunities for expanding either extracurricular offerings up there, as well as trying to find opportunities to reopen the school. Right now, we're still very far away from any concepts, and really the feedback we've received was exactly what Mary Ann shared with us last month, which is that they really are saying they can't do it at this time and are relying on the school or the district or someone else to be involved in conceptualizing if the school is going to be reopened, what it's going to look like.
So I actually just want to bring something up. So after that meeting, I was thinking, okay, so what they were asking is that if they need our support, that we have to sort of try to be the pushing, pushing it, or
Driver.
pulling it, the driver, thank you. And so, I started to just do some research on some magnets, what exists in Ventura, and as I did, I kind of my brain kept going back to how, I'm not sure that, an amazing program is the solution. It's wonderful to have an amazing program, but I think my concern is just the number of children that are living up in Upper Ojai, or the lack of children. So, thinking, even going back to, if we had, 3 teachers and we had a focus, or do we have enough students for 3 teachers? And where would we get them in order to support that kind of a program? And I think with the, my understanding from Santa Paula is that their elementary schools still have space. They're not overcrowding. They're overcrowding at their junior high level, but not at their elementary levels. And that students are leaving, not many students are leaving Santa Paula to go to magnet schools in Ventura. So my question was, would they be leaving to go to up here? So I would like to have a bigger discussion in December or January, you tell me, about what we're doing for next year for those families, and for the district to sort of start looking at that property, and possibly, deciding whether we want to have a 7-Eleven committee or summit.
Well,
Because my
yeah.
feeling is that, my experience with the 7-Eleven committee, the last one, there was a lot of research done by that committee. And 7-Eleven might provide us the opportunity, and as we learned, 7-Eleven doesn't mean schools closing. It's an opportunity to look at that property, to look at the demographics, to look at all the elements, and find out what's best for that property. And so I think it'd be important to have a committee.
Did the previous 7-Eleven committee not cover that school?
I thought that it did.
I thought it did
Well,
too.
it was, in my understanding, it was the 5 elementary schools, and this would just be for that property specific, wouldn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, so
Do we not need one, or-
we would need one if we wanted to maintain closure for a longer period of time and explore longer term leases. So remember, this year our only option was a license agreement with Rocktree Sky and other users, because we had not gone through the 7-Eleven committee process specifically for this property, given the current conditions, which would allow us to then have you ultimately potentially declare it surplus, and then explore longer term exclusive right usage, lease agreements. So we would, even though the 7-Eleven committee back in 2015-16 looked at the elementary schools, I do think it's fair to say that Thane, you and I especially hold a pretty equal view of the quality of that enrollment projection. But it's been proven completely inaccurate or off from what we were looking at then is not what we're actually seeing. And to no fault of theirs, they couldn't possibly have predicted the changing housing situation in Upper Ojai as a result of Thomas Fire. So, there's a number of things, and again, their estimates on Thomas Fire, or their estimates on Summit, really was just assuming, status quo up there of around 45 kids. They did not predict that we were going to be at 19 this year, and they had no information at that time that would have suggested such.
Their assumptions, were basically that nothing changes ever for anybody. Yeah. But
They were the best in the state. I'll say
No,
that
I'm-
again.
I'm
I
not
wasn't
s-
here when they were selected, but they
I'm
were the
not
best in
saying
the
that-
state. But
yeah.
their work was
I'm not saying that anybody
correct.
else would have been, but
Right,
it's-
exactly.
It's very difficult to predict. But Jane, going to your point about the magnet schools, that was my thought when we were having the discussion. If we do create a magnet school, I think an important discussion around that would be where to house it. Because Summit wouldn't necessarily be the right place to do it if we created a great program. So I think all of those things would need to go into the discussion.
If we were to convene a 7-Eleven, would that require a new study? Because that study that you're talking about was pretty pricey, no?
So 7-Eleven committees are required to have both a demographic or a enrollment projection for the areas in which they're evaluating, as well as a facility study. So yes, we must do a study, but we wouldn't necessarily have to use the same group we used in the past, and we wouldn't necessarily have to go to the same level of detail again. They aren't looking at the broader valley. What they're looking at is a very localized area up there. But yes, 7-Eleven committees
that
are
something
7-Eleven
you-
committees are required to have a report in some form. And actually, I'll have to go back and look at Ed Code. I don't believe it actually has to be an outside body.
That's what I was gonna
It
ask.
can be done internally, but just the 7-Eleven committee must, by law, review enrollment projections. So that way, they're among the things they're taking into account is what they're seeing as the current need and the potential future need of a site.
It's all because the hospital stopped having babies born there.
Maybe.
It's about when the decline started.
But Jane, to your
Perhaps
point, I
that's
mean, I
why.
do think that we're getting to the point here very soon where we need to make at minimum a decision about the 1920 school year.
Absolutely.
At this time, given where we're at, it is going to be very challenging for us to arrive at any conclusion other than where we currently are for this current school year. But it's something I think that we heard very clearly from the community, I heard from this board, was that we don't want to be back in this situation in May and June. For the sake of our own staffing purposes here at across the district, as well as for families who are making those decisions. Really, enrollment begins in early February.
Tours start in February,
Yeah.
we start collecting
So
documentation, yeah.
really, we're talking about, the next 2 to 3 months needing to have a decision made. So I think that we are talking about a timeline of December or January of really having to come back with this being a more substantive conversation about the near-term and long-term future of Summit.
Agreed. And we don't have families clamoring for an answer right now as to what we're doing. Nobody's calling the district to say, are we opening back up?
I've received no calls, and to my knowledge, our student data specialist, Dave Walker, is not.
Just a quick, I was just thinking about this, so the Rock Tree Sky did not end up having any of our students who were at Summit enrolling in Rock Tree Sky, correct?
Kim, do you know, or Marilyn, do you know? That's my
I don't
understanding.
think so.
Yeah.
And that's one of my, I mean, I know people have been very praising the Rock Tree Sky, but I think the families that are choosing that are really not looking for a classroom-based public education. They're really looking for, a lot of them come 2 days a week. A lot of them are homeschooled because of the, particular beliefs of the family, that they wouldn't feel comfortable, I think, sending their children to a regular, everyday.
Well, and I think it covers a much larger geographic area as well.
Well, that's what I mean, and
Yeah.
I know Mary Ann was saying, if he's got 20 kids, I don't know, coming from Thousand Oaks, why can't we do something as a district at that location and get those 20 kids? And I
Because they're
think
not
it's-
gonna come every day.
Right,
Yeah.
they're looking for something.
I go to
different.
LA twice a week, but there's no way I'm gonna go every day.
That's why I want more information, I want more time spent in it, I want to be able to look at it, and I think the best way to do that is 7-Eleven, but I'm only one person.
Is there anything else on this topic?
Nope.
If not, we'll move on to 7.5.2, the second reading of the May 2018 CSBA recommended board policies.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. 7.5.3, the selection of the date for the annual organizational meeting of the governing board.
As December 12th.
As December 12th.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6:35. Superintendent's report. Boy,
You
tell
don't have
Kevin's
to,
not here.
yeah, you don't have to go until 9 o'clock.
Well, especially given, for those who are watching at home or who came a little late, I'm not feeling very well today, so if you've been seeing my jaw going up and down, it's not yawning, it's me trying to pop my ears because I can't hear. So given that, I will keep my comments brief, but I will just note that this is our first meeting following the election last week, and so Jane, I'd like to congratulate you on another term, as well as Kevin and Mike, who aren't able to be here. I really do enjoy working with the five of you, and I feel that the really substantive changes that we have begun over the past few years, it'll be great to be able to keep working on again as a team of five. That Cheryl and I know that the homework that we have cut out for ourselves before we present anything to you, and I hope that you guys have appreciated the way in which you as a group have really transformed these meetings over the past few years to be really a substantive, deliberative body. And so again, congratulations, Jane, and the community's support and belief in you, and I look forward to more time working with each of you.
Congratulations, Jane.
Yeah, congratulations.
7.5.5, board member reports. Are there any board members who have something they'd like to
Didn't you have an
report?
acceptance speech?
I was at one of those volleyball games too, and it was so exciting. But I was thinking, we should have more, I'm just throwing an idea out there. My high school you had cheerleaders for different seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just the football team that had cheerleaders. You had basketball cheerleaders, but
Were
really
they the
nice.
same, or
You could try out, but some girls were like, well, I play basketball, so I don't want to be a cheerleader in the winter. I'm just going to be a cheerleader in the fall or whatever. But
Honestly, I didn't realize that ours were only fall. I thought it was year-round. When I was in high school, it was year-round.
Yeah, it's just, you felt it.
They are
You felt
year-round.
They are year-round.
Now, they may not have been in attendance, but they are year-round.
I've never seen.
Yeah, I was gonna say
basketball
they've been at
games.
basketball games. Christian usually pesters them at basketball games.
Well, I only go to 1 or 2 games a year, but the games I've been to, I've never seen any cheerleaders.
Do they do them at female games?
I was gonna say that it's possible that they're not at the female games as frequently.
I think we should have some male cheerleaders at the female games.
Or female ones, doesn't have either way.
We could have co-ed groups. That would be nice. We did, when I was in high school, have co-ed cheerleaders.
Speaking of co-ed, I will share an announcement, although I know I'm out of turn, but December 3rd at Matilaha, Marimani has a dance program, which Christian will be the prince of a ballet that he is the lone boy in, but you guys are all welcome to attend.
The night of the dashboard.
Oh, yeah. So
You
after-
could either stay home
after
and
you
wait for
get
the
your full
dashboard,
you
or,
can come watch Christian dance around.
Or bring your phone and do
Right.
both.
yes. So, no other board member reports? No? All right.
I do have an item for future agenda.
All right.
I am just reminding us from our meeting minutes from the last time that we talked about the dress code and needing to update it. So I'd like to, are we gonna do a committee, or are we just gonna each send little notes and then Annie and Cheryl will redo it and then we vote on it, saying, hey, yeah, these are the improvements, so just. And then the other one was the literacy, so we had this great presentation, so now what? Did we say
Yep.
we're doing enough, or what more can we do? I just kind of felt like,
We need closure on those items.
what's the next step on this?
Can I, as a public, make a suggestion?
Sure.
Or a person? I would love to see a presentation by Julie on the food services and the changes that they've made. At Topa Topa, our cafeteria is something new to behold. And I think it'd be really great for you guys to see and hear what Francis Gonzalez is doing in there. And then I think it'd be great for the public to hear it. I've never, as an adult, as a teacher, I've never eaten a school lunch. I ate school lunches as a child and then I was like, I'm done. But I am now eating a salad from our cafeteria every week, and there's probably 5 or 6 of us doing that. So I think the public needs to hear that. And I think you guys would really probably be stunned at what's
I would love
happening
to
with
hear about that,
our food
Great.
services, so.
especially as we embark on the kitchen expansion at Matilaha and bringing that.
Yes, well, I was
So-
telling Jim Churchill about it on Sunday, and he started crying. He was just so touched by what's happening at that cafeteria, so, and
great.
he's, a steering committee for Food for Thought.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Very involved in
Absolutely.
good food, and we're doing it.
You
So I
know,
think it'd be great for you guys to.
CTE too, I'd love to see, once you
Yeah.
have that, a new pathway to the campus.
there was about a year ago, maybe more, the Santa Barbara TV channel did a whole news piece on the Santa Barbara nutrition services. Would love to hear what's going on in our valley on the news, so that everybody knows and not just us.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we'll have to figure out how to get that out there. But it would help
Some
for
of our
us to know.
videos.
We do have that pathway.
Are there any other future agenda items? No?
No.
All right, we will move on to the consent calendars.
So, in terms of this Avalon thing now,
Did you find the page that it's on?
It's 8.3, so it's immediately following the personnel.
Oh, here it is, okay.
My request would be that it be approved, although we'll certainly take his notes and talk to both Mr. Cotty, Coach Cotty, as well as Dave Munson, make sure that we understand that this is a trip that players want to participate on, and those who do not are not inappropriately penalized. But I would ask, for the sake of maintaining flexibility, that this remain on the consent calendar.
That's basically what I was I think we should approve it, but not force anybody to go.
Well, and so I have a question, I'm gonna show my sports ignorance here. How many people are on a basketball team?
usually 12.
5 have to be on the court.
5
and
on
then-
the court?
Probably usually.
Well, it says 10 students are going. I wondered if all 10
Ten's a
are
team.
required to go? Or if they wouldn't be able to play in it. At what number can they not participate?
All right, here's my experience with the teams at Nordoff is even if they were to be told that they didn't have to, that there would be pressure from the coach that they had to. And if they didn't, they would spend some time on the bench.
And it affects their grade.
So I think as a team, they need to meet with parents and students and decide whether this is a tournament they want to continue to do. Rather than, because if it's left to, the coaching staff, I mean, we get in ruts. This is what we've always done the tournament. We always, is there another tournament out there? Maybe we play the Villanova tournament or something. I don't know.
Well, and now that I'm looking at the dates, this is when we're back in school. This is not a
No, it's the
Christmas break.
3rd through the 5th. We don't come back till the 7th this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we come back a little late.
Really late, okay.
But yeah, it's an issue with football. Back when we used to go on to CIF playoffs and that sort of thing. I mean, I know my son I stayed home with him. My family went off to Thanksgiving somewhere because there are difficult choices when it comes to sports like that. And the question is whether high school kids should generally have to make those decisions.
Well, I think, a CIF final is a little different. than
It's
just a
different than an
tournament.
optional tournament,
Yeah.
right? But even that was difficult,
Yes, right.
So back to our consent agenda. Do we want to modify the agenda, or do we have a move to approve?
I'll move to approve, but with a strong recommendation to have a meeting.
Got it.
So if I abstain, it doesn't pass because we're not a quorum.
Right?
Kathy, do you know, we have a quorum as
We
present,
have-
so it's just a majority vote for any individual item, right? A majority of those who are present? Or would we need to actually have?
100% clear on that.
I think that's right.
Majority versus a quorum
I think if you have a quorum, you just need a majority,
of those present.
yeah.
I'm gonna vote no.
The trip is, we still have an opportunity to put it back on the agenda in December if necessary.
Well, if there's
Once you have
time,
information about,
if there's time to do
process.
that, then I would join with that to take it off and revisit it. Wait,
But-
but it's, no, there's not, because
there is
it's,
a December meeting.
yeah, but isn't the December meeting after the tournament?
No,
No,
the
tournament's
tournament's
not till
January 3rd and
Oh,
through
okay.
5th
Well, then,
of the
yeah,
Christmas
why
break.
don't
How
we
much
wait?
notice, though, do they need?
Well, that-
Is there an issue
I
with?
don't know
for
if
the
there's a
deadline?
non-refundable deposit.
Right,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, I would ask that the board approve the consent calendar with this item. We certainly have heard the concern expressed by one individual who's representing perhaps some friends, but we'll work with the team on making sure it's an appropriate trip. But I would hate to jeopardize this for the rest of the team or the coach because of the uncertainty they may be facing as they try to fundraise between now and our next meeting.
I'll maintain my motion to approve.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
No.
No for the entire consent calendar?
Well, it's only a one item. I don't think I can.
Mm,
No, we're voting
It's
on
the
the
whole
entire
consent
at the
calendar.
moment.
Well, we could
You
take
can
that
pull
out
So,
and
it,
vote
you
on
yeah,
can pull it
it
and
I
have
think
a
we'll have
separate
to-
vote.
Okay, so, how do we go back? Scratch
So
that.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar minus 8.3.1A.
So we can have a vote on that.
Okay,
Does
so,
anyone second that?
I'll second that.
all in favor of?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passed unanimously, except I forgot to say aye, aye. And then we will, is there a motion just to
I'll
approve?
move to approve that
3
particular trip.
Okay, and I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
So 2 for, 2 ayes and 1 no.
And Jane, just, you are a no, not an abstain?
Correct.
Okay.
If they change my mind, if they tell me that the group has met and they all want it, and they've looked for other tournaments, and there's no, you know.
I just think it's fun to have somebody else vote no on something.
That is the meeting. The meeting is now adjourned.